On this video, I would like to continue where I left off last time, which was at Revelation 18, verse 8. And now we're coming to how the morning, the kings of the earth, the merchants, are now going to be weeping because what they gained is now being done away with the destruction of Rome. And this could be applied in a broader way too to the whole world system. So, at least I believe. So, as we pick it up in verse 9, and I'm reading it in the Greek and doing then a grammatical analysis at that point. So it reads, Kai klaususin kai kapsantai ep altain, hoi basiles tes ges, hoi met autes, pornus santes, kai sreni asantes, hatan bleposin tan kapnan tes purosaos autes. That is, and they shall weep, and they shall mourn, actually beat their breasts, so to speak. That is, the kings of the earth over her fall, and the ones who committed fornication with her. Pornus santes is from pornuo. It's the aorist participle active nominative plural, masculine plural, from pornuo. So they who committed fornication with her. And by the way, kopto is the word to beat the breast, future indicative middle, third person plural. So they shall mourn and they shall beat the breast, that is, the kings of the earth, who committed fornication with her, and sre niasantes, who actually lived in a wanton, luxurious way. And he's talking about how they're going to begin mourning when this destruction takes place. Sre niasantes is from sre niadzo. It is a aorist active participle nominative masculine plural from streniazo. Whenever they shall see, bleposine is the present subjunctive active from blepo, the smoke, tan kap non, tes purosaos autes, whenever they see the smoke of her burning. So the kings of the earth who committed fornication with Rome will mourn because their luxurious living and what they have done will be brought to an end in the destruction of Rome. And then in verse 10, apa makrathen hestekates diatan faban tu basanismu autes legantes. And from a far off, standing, on account of the fear of her torment, saying. So notice they're mourning, and from afar, they're standing. Here we have hestekates is the perfect active participle, nominative masculine plural from histemi. So they're standing on account of the fear or dread of her torment, saying, legantes is your present active participle nominative masculine plural from lego. So they stand saying, Woe, uai, hey, polis, hey, megale. Woe, woe, the great city, the strong city of Babylon, or the strong city Babylon, because in 1 hour, hate mia hora eothen he Chrisesu, or in 1 hour, her judgment has come. In other words, it's looking at the sudden defeat and downfall of Rome. Eothen is your aorist indicative active third person singular from erchami. So we continue then in verse 11. Kai hoi imparoi tes geis, klai usin kai penthusin ep altain. And the merchants of the earth mourn, weep, and mourn for her. Notice klai usin is your present indicative active third person plural from klai o. So they are standing and they are mourning. Penthusin from pentheo, present indicative active third person plural, over her because their cargo, hate tan daman alton, udes, agoradze uketi. That is because their cargo, they no longer are buying. In other words, what they had traded with Rome is being brought to an end. And agorazo is your present indicative active third person plural from agorazo. I'm sorry, they are no one, I'm sorry, not third person plural, but third person singular from agorazo. Because their cargo, no one is buying anymore. And then he begins to name. There's a long list of things that have to do with that cargo. Notice verse 12. Gaman krusu, cargo of gold, kai akruu, and silver, kai lithu timio, and literally precious stones or jewels would be a way to translate every of all of stones that were precious. Kai margariton, and pearls, kai basinu, and of fine linen, kai porphyras, and purple, kai siriku, and of silk, kai kakenu, and of scarlet. In other words, all of these things they had traded in. Kai pansulan thuinon, and every scented wood. So we're looking at all the wealth that these kings accrued with their cargo. Kai panskuon elephantenon, and not only every scented wood, but all articles of ivory. Kai panskuon exulu timiatatu. So all articles of ivory and all wood of costliness. So all costly wood. And not only costly wood, but kalku of bronze, costly wood of bronze, kai sideru of iron, kai marmaru of iron and of maple. And he's just going on and on in this list, describing why the merchants are weeping, because there was all of this costly stuff that they're going to lose. And then kai kin Kinamoman and cinnamon, kai amoman and spice, kai tumiamata and incense, kai muran and myrrh, kai Lebanon, frankincense, and kai Lebanon, kai oinon, and oil, uh, wine, frankincense, and oinon, and wine. And then, as we continue, um, this is a long list of different things that he is listing. Uh, Kai Semidalan, not only of wine, but all um, articles of costly wood, bronze, uh, iron, maple, cinnamon, spice, incense, myrrh, frankincense, wine, oil, and fine flour. Lebanon, and kai oinon, kai elaan, kai semidalan, fine flour, kai sitan, and wheat, kai katene, and cattle, kai prabata, and sheep, and then of horses, hippon, kai redon, and chariots, kai, and then he comes to the end of chariots, and kai somaton of slaves, kai psuchas anthropon, and of human souls. This is sort of the climax of all of this list that the kings and those that traded and were a part of this are mourning for. It's interesting. Again, I have been reading again and breaking the code, and I appreciate what Metzger had to say on page 86 of his book, Understanding the Book of Revelation. The kings of the earth who had consorted with her weep and wail over her when they see the smoke of her burning. The merchants who became wealthy because of her great commerce and trade weep and mourn for her, since no one buys their cargo anymore. And among their merchandise and luxuries, as well as necessities, there are slaves and human lives. By mentioning slaves at the end of the list of commodities, John intends a climax. The essential inhumanity of Rome's exploitation of the empire clearly reveals itself by the constant flow of slaves from the provinces to the city of Rome. By John's time, slaves made up almost half of the population of the city. But then the last words of the list are human lives. And Metzger writes, refer to something even more sinister than the regular slave trade. For along with slaves who were the manual and clerical workers in the houses of the great, there were others whose fate was to fight for their lives and to die for the entertainment of the Roman crowds in the amphitheaters built for that purpose by the Caesars. These victims were these victims too were among what the Roman people had become accustomed to. What a horrible, horrible display of uh, evil that was going on in the Roman Empire. And I think this is what really John is emphasizing, and how God is going to judge this and predicting the judgment that would come. So then, as we come to verse 14, uh, he goes on to write, Kaihe aporasu tes epithumias tes psuches apelthen apasu. That is, and the fruit of which, of the lust or the passion uh, of the soul, this evil passion, have passed away, have gone from you. Apelthen is from apergamai. It's the aorist indicative active third person singular. Kai panta ta dipara, kai ta lampara apolitai apa su. That is, and furthermore, all of your dainties and splendor are perished from you. Apalita is the aorist indicative middle, third person singular from apalumi. So all have perished from you, looking at the fall of Rome that was to take place. Kai ukete ume auta huresusin. And no longer are they, will they be found, will these ever be found? No longer. Ume, a double negative here in Greek, and huresusin is the future indicative active third person plural from hurizo. Furthermore, he continues, hoi imporoi tuton, hoi plutesantes ap autes, apa makrathen stesantai diatan faban tu basanismu autes cliantes kai penthuntes. That is, verse 15, and the merchants who got rich from her. Plutesantes is your aorist participle, nominative masculine plural from pluteo. So the merchants who got rich from her shall stand afar off. Stesantai is your future indicative active or middle, third person plural from histemi. So they shall stand afar off, weeping because of what they're losing in the destruction of Rome. Kleontes kai penthuntes, standing, weeping. Both of these are present participles, active, nominative masculine plural, from Clio and Pentheo, saying, Uai, Uai, hey Palis, hey Megale. That is, woe, woe, the great city. Speaking of Rome here, Alas, alas, for the great city, He peribeblemene businan kai porphurun kai kakinan. The great city, uh, speaking of Rome here, who was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, kai kekrusomene, and we could say covered or bedecked with gold in crucio kai litho timeo kai margarite, were clothed bedecked with gold, with precious stones like jewels, and with pearls. Looking at again all the wealth and luxury and the downfall that is being predicted here. Woe, woe, he peribeblemene. Peribeblemene is a perfect passive participle uh, from the root peribalo, to be clothed. The idea is a having been clothed, um, from peribalo, clothed about with uh, linen, or with fine linen, with purple and with scarlet. Kai kekrusomene, and this form here, kekrusomene, is a perfect passive participle, feminine singular, nominative singular, from krusao, that is, covered with gold, or decorated with gold, or bedecked with gold, and precious stones, like jewels, and with pearls. Uh, in 1 hour, because hate mia hora eremose ha tasutas plutas. In 1 hour, their wealth has been laid waste. Uh, uh, Eremose is from eremao, to lay waste, the aorist indicative passive from eremao. So I'm going to stop there. What John is doing, he's listing the destruction of Rome, all the things that the merchants and those that traded with Rome uh, are going to lose when this takes place, this final, can I say, judgment that the Lord is going to bring. It is interesting as we think about the book of Revelation. This could also become a type, as we have said, of the whole world system and what actually goes on and its final fall. And after describing all of this, he will then come to the shipmasters and the sailors and how they're going to cry out. So he goes through all of the wealth and pomp and luxury and how Rome would be laid waste. And as we said, in the year AD 410, in a previous video, that was the fateful week. It was in August. Alaric, with his northern hordes of Goths, pillaged Rome and laid it waste. So he's predicting something that was to take place. And as we said, this can easily have a double fulfillment, not just speaking of Rome per se, only, I should say, but of the whole world system that Rome becomes a type of, and the final destruction of it at the second advent of Christ. So I'm going to stop there and pick it up there next time in our next video.